For example, I am used to do some usage in an application called Shakespeare Quotes of the Day. And if you are thinking about Shakespeare, the kind of quotes that I was expecting to see are to be or not to be, or Romeo and Juliet, stuff like this. This is what I was expecting from Shakespeare's application. And one day there was a crash, and actually what I noticed, that this is what was shown to the user. An SSL error has occurred, and a secure connection to the server cannot be made. And this is the stuff that we see from the user of the application. The comment of, he was ahead of his time. So I know there is a saying that says, there is no bad publicity. But from my taste, I think that if I'm working in a company and that's what happened, it can actually be maybe bad for my side as a tester. Okay, so let's think together. If you have this kind of a issue in your application, what kind of solution can you think about? Like, how can we actually find something that is on the client side? When I started to think about, well, should I do a manual testing or an automation tests? If we are going over a solution of a manual, it means that I'm, as a tester, supposed to use the driver application and actually giving a ride again and again and again. Get a ride, then complete the ride, and get the payment for the ride. And if you think about it, drivers have something like 8 hours of a shift. So it's meaning to do it manually for 8 hours, over and over again. So it was clear to me that I will go over automation solution in this case. And even then, I needed to think what is a good automation solution. Will it be a third-party solution or an in-house solution? So what are the pros and cons for a third-party solution? The pros are that if I'm actually going and use a third-party solution, I get already something that someone developed and is standing behind it. Meaning I don't need to do everything for myself. And it's great. But the con in this situation is the cost. Because some of the third-party tools will cost money because you get support for it. And there are some developers that actually do the work for you. Another con is that it's not necessarily something that it is adjusted specifically for your needs. In some cases, you'll have the tool and you'll need a solution for Windows, and the tool will provide solution for Linux. If you want it to be adjusted, you need to pay for more money, and wait, it's not an immediate solution. If I go to in-house solution, I think that the main pros are that this is something that can help for your self-development. If you are going to develop your own tool, you might need to learn some language. I know it's not immediate, but it's something that actually builds you up and give you more skill sets in this kind of situation. Another pro of in-house solution is that it's something that, if you think about it, you will actually can modify it for whatever you need. If you want to support mobile, you can support mobile. If you want to support web, you will support web, and so on and so forth. So in my case, I decided to go over in-house solution, and the decision was to actually create our own tool, something that we will build from scratch. In this way, our skill set will be bigger. We can adjust it specifically for what we need. And this is the way we went through. And even then, we had some consideration to be made. What is the language that we are going to use? Will it be Java or will it be C#? If we are going with C#, it means that actually we need to pay for licenses. If we're going over Java, it means that it's with no licenses most of the time, and there is pros and cons for everything. After we decided that we will go with Java solution, we needed to decide what is the platform that we are going to support. Will it be something which is mobile, or something that is specifically for the desktop? Or is it something that will develop and will be over web? We went over web in this case, because when you develop it for a web application, you can go to this application from any computer of the organization and actually see the result as they are. So this is what drives us. Also, if you are working with a database, you need to consider, is it going to be a SQL or a NoSQL? It's stuff that we need to think even after we decide about the solution. So, in this case, this is some of the graphs that will describe exactly what the tool does. It's actually executing tests over the mobile device using Appium. On the mobile device, it will execute a longevity test. It's a test that runs for 8 hours and simulates a shift of the taxi driver. On the same time, there will be another thread on the code that takes all the information of the processes from the mobile device, whether it's a memory consumption of the application, or is it the CPU of the application. And the data that will be taken afterwards will be sent to the database. Over the database, we will have a timestamp of when the data was taken, a timestamp that shows us the exact time that the CPU and the memory was taken from the application. We use actually ADB. ADB allows us to take all the information from the mobile device, which is in Android. After we got the information in the database, we created another web application. This web application, what it does, it actually goes to the database and get all the different data from all the execution that was made. And then it can allow us to actually execute and get the graphs from the web application. And in this way, the graphs and all the information is available to all the users and all the employees in the company. This is actually pretty exciting because if you think about it, in every build, in every version of your product, you can actually see if there is a negative influence in the application itself. And this is amazing because up till now, if you think, how can we solve it, there is a solution, and you can even get it for a specific version of the application. So actually what I've done, I wrote some of a similar tool, which is not executed over the mobile, but it's executed over the web. It means that it's similar. If we are testing a product which is on a mobile application, we can actually do the same thing for a web application. And this is pretty much what the tool that I created for the conference is doing. We can see that it's testing something over the web browser Chrome, and it's testing specifically the application of Google Search. Obviously, it's something just for the conference, and we can see that it can take the user CPU in this specific example, and in the same way do it for the memory. And what I will do, I will actually share with you the code of the tool itself that is specifically for this conference. So this is the Java code, and this code is actually taking the test name, and we will see later how the test name is important for the execution of the tool. Other than that, there is another thread that we are using, and this specific thread is used in order to send all the memory and the CPU of the application. This is the thread that will store the data for us in the database. After that, we can see that we have another thread, and this thread executes specifically the test. In this tool, the test is actually to navigate again and again to different values in the search application of Google. But if you have another application, and this application do finance, or this application do something related to mobility or whatnot, you can do a specific test for you, and it will actually take the CPU and the memory according to your test. This code can be adjusted to different operating system, if it's Linux, if it's Android, or whatnot. Okay, in this case, we're still looking on a Java code. This is the code of the test. If any of you actually use Selenium, you can know for sure that this is very easy to do just these segments. It's very short, very easy. But in different cases, I guess the tests are more complicated. But this is a very simple example. It's all the time just searching again and again and again for a different value in the Chrome search, in Google search. And this code segment is the different thread that we were talking about. That it's actually taking all the information of the CPU or the memory. And we can see that it uses a function called execute terminal command, and we'll see how we will use it. This specific function is taking the process that is executed in the background, and you check if it contains whether the memory we need or the CPU that we need. And here is exactly how we call it. This is how we call to the function. In this function, we can see that we get the CPU and the memory as well. Okay, we're switching from Java to a simple HTML code. I just wanted to show you a specific code of a button. This specific code, what it does, if we click it, we can see that it's actually called to a function named createGraph. So when we click on the button, it starts to create us the graph that we are needed. We're executing, passing for it, the selected test. This is the test that we already saw, how we take the value of it. We give the name of the test. In this way, we can also support multiple tests. We're passing the time selected and the measurement. So it can be CPU, and of course, the test can be in different times. It's not like we are executing the test just once. Okay, from here on, we're just switching again for Angular JS code. We can see that we are going after all the information that we were sending and checking, is it in a specific timestamp and specific memory or CPU values. We're checking if it's CPU, we are going to push this data. If it's memory, we will push the other way around. Okay, after this, we're supposed to have a demo, but due to issues of technicality, we won't go over it. But what I do want to share with you is some quote that is relevant to Einstein. And I think it's very relevant because after all, we are trying to see how innovation can help us in our workplace. And really what I want you to take from this talk is not necessarily just the code and the tool that it's free for you. You can take it and adjust it to your project, to your company. It's something that is available for you. I also want you to take the approach that every time you face some problem, think about it like a challenge, something that you can actually rise from it. I'm sharing here two stuff, and actually if you ask me, this is the slide that you should take a photo of. So everyone, if you want, just take a photo. Yeah, that's right, everyone. You also have here my personal mail. You can send me emails about how can you use it. If you have any problems, something that is challenging you, something that you want to think, how can you solve it, you can just reach me in my private mail. LinkedIn account, of course, if you want. And there is two different projects. One is for the tests that are executed in Java. You can take it as an example and understand how to use it for your needs. And there is also the conference tool itself. This is the web application where you will be able to see all the graphs. So it's really available for everyone here. Other than that, if you have questions, you can, of course, ask. What I'm doing, I will open the Slido since no question? Okay. So I can tell you that something that I'm being asked is, for example, if there is some kind of problem with something you develop, how can you actually rely on it? So from my perspective, when I think about coding and developing, I see it no different in a way. It's pretty similar to actually having a baby. Think about it. When you are having a baby, you have like 9 months that are very difficult and intensive, but it doesn't end after that. Even if you finish to developing something and you have a product, and we all know that since we are all working in tech, you still need to test it, you still need to try and push it and see how can it be part of a process that you can take use of it. Okay, so actually I see that there are a few questions. Are there any alternative to Selenium that you can recommend? So yes, I actually know that other than Selenium, you have Puppeteer, which is actually testing just for Chrome. I didn't use it. I'm actually have a bias for Selenium. This is what I started my career at. My first project was in a company in Israel that we actually kind of created an automation product that was sold together with the product itself. So I worked with this just for 3 years, and afterwards, in every project, there was actually guidance to use Selenium. And I know that Puppeteer is out there, and it's actually giving a good fight. Under that, you can actually try and Google. I've been in some kind of a talk that was shown that you can do a lot of web testing without even using the UI. So if you Google just the concept of it, you'll probably find something that does it. I think that actually Selenium gives an option to do web testing without the UI itself. So it can help. And there are a lot of other options, of course. You can just try it. I recommend highly for Selenium, since there is an open source and there is a large group that actually uses it. So you know that if you encounter a problem, there is someone that probably already had this problem. And if you look good enough, you probably will find a faster solution to your case, just because someone else already faced it. Another question. It looks like your solution runs a test just on one computer and send one request. How do you get around the caching of responses? I can't say that I had any issues with caching, but just in this case, I want you to think about this solution just as an option. Even if you want just to take this solution, that's fine, but there are a lot of adjustments that can be done. For example, the solution that I showed you is executed on Mac, but it can be very easily can be adjusted to be executed on Windows, for example, just by taking different way of getting all the information inside. And for example, in my organization, I use it in order to give a solution for mobile apps. But I can tell you that the tool that I created for this conference is actually testing the web application. And by the way, if you like, you can even come afterwards and just sit with me and I can show you how it works and how you can actually maybe take it and use it for your needs. Last question that I see right now. What do you test and what problems did you find with this tool? Okay, so in this specific example, what I was telling is that we had a driver that actually approached to me and started to tell me about a situation where the application was crashing all the time. And in this specific situation, when we already got the tool and showed it, it was resolved very easily. And to be honest, if you think about it, performance issues in the client side are not something that happens every day, or not, if to be honest, every month or even every 3 months. The idea is that this solution specifically will show again and again the same result. We're not expecting to have like a crisis in this kind of way every day. But when it does find us, when overnight we find a specific time where the graphs are drastic, and instead of a CPU of 100, you can get on Windows like just 99, and then you know something is wrong with my tool, with my application, with my product. So in this specific case, this is when you want to know it before it reaches to production. Because as we've seen a Twitter message, we can see also messages on other platforms that will actually tell the same thing. So I guess our time is up. You were really amazing audience. Thank you for your patience. I can't thank you enough.